Hello and welcome to another episode of Viewer Stunt Submissions. We are starting off with Op 8, taking a leisurely drive. I really like the angle from above, but it doesn't quite do justice to what is about to happen next, because we're just flying and flying all the way down to land on a tiny ramp. At least in comparison with the jump, that ramp is tiny. And somehow we survive just fine. It's kind of a miracle that we're driving away with just basically some bodywork damage. Next up is Subloing, going in a slightly modded car, one might say. There's definitely a little bit more power in that than usual. But it lands so perfectly on the ramp right here that definitely is worthy of a good stunt submission. Next up is All You Can Eat for Life, doing a 180 on the quarter pipe. I don't know how the car stays so well in line with the ramp. It's quite hard to do that normally. But they're not just going to do a 180, they actually have a 540 as well. Adding a whole nother rotation and still staying in line with the ramp to land on it perfectly. I'm not sure how that is done so well. Next up is 2Pixel with, when this video was made, this was the new car. I'm terribly behind on all of these submissions, I'm sorry. But showing us that you can two-wheel all the way through the factory. And when you're on the Discord server, you can share your stunts, so people often get inspired by each other. So there were actually quite a few people trying to do two-wheeled stunts in BeamNG, and I think that Burkan has taken the crown, because there was so much precision in this that he was able to take off the wing mirror off of the car. That's how long and well he was able to stay on two wheels. That is very impressively done. Obviously a highly tuned car, but well done. Next up is a jump over a modeled map, landing perfectly on some natural bit of terrain, which is pretty cool. You had to have a lot of speed just to make that landing, sort of the angle of that landing work well, but that definitely seemed to have gone very well. Next up is Zippy, making their way down a broken bridge, traversing that just fine, but hitting this container to make a perfect front flip and just continue riding, bumping off of one bit to still skip over the next bit of broken bridge. That was pretty cool. Next up, a short but very sweet one. Perfectly going through that to land on the road very smoothly, just over the railing. It was a very precise one, that one. Next up is Frank the Tank, taking the sidewall, having to ride the wall just to get enough speed to land on this tiny bit of natural landing. That was very well done, and up until this point, at least, very little damage, just a bit of bodywork. Next up is Grope going for a jump off of the ramp. You must have done this before, it's a very cool modded map. But doing a perfect front flip with a stadium truck is pretty cool. However, we have Hilarious going up the wrong direction with a pretty fast accelerating car. Let's see if this goes well. And of course it does, because it was perfectly judged, that speed, to make it exactly onto that ramp the wrong way around. But not only that, they also went all the way back and just used a little bit of braking here to go to perfect speed to finally land on the down ramp as well. Just so perfectly that was very satisfying to see. Next up is Matt going for a interesting way through the canals, making use of the big truck and the fact that the wheels are slanted to just make it through a couple of corners pretty smoothly. Maybe not as much of a stunt, but still, I thought it was a pretty cool clip to include, especially because of the little wall tap to finish it off with. Next up, Will the Potato, apparently using a potato to film this, unfortunately, but it was a perfect barrel roll by two cars. Doing that one after the other is very cool. And here is another clip by Grope going for a huge jump off into nowhere, it seems, but finding just that little bit of natural terrain to land on. Just a tiny landing and making it through that little valley perfectly is very cool. Next up, zero width non-joiner, doing... The camera angles don't quite tell me what is happening, but it seemed cool. Here's another look at it from a slightly different angle. Again, I'm not 100% sure what happened, but it seemed pretty cool. McPig taking some jumps through the East Coast. For once, someone is on the East Coast. Most of the time, stunts are done on the West Coast. Doing quite a few jumps in sequence, including this rather large one. Making it all the way over the river, and some space to spare as well, making it to the other side just perfectly fine. Next up, on the West Coast, what a surprise, but Finuba taking the next few stunts very close to the bridges. They couldn't have been much lower for that to still go well. Thanks everyone for sending in your submissions. These submissions were actually old ones. They were from before my last video on these viewer submissions. I just had quite a few clips that I still really wanted to share. So that's what we have now done. We've gone through all the submissions that I still had lying around that were really cool. Definitely worthy of being in one of those submissions videos, but I just hadn't had the time yet. So from now on, it will be all fresh ones, only the newest and latest of the clips. So keep sending them in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.